Welcome, everyone. My name is Lou Della Rosa. I'm the president of ACDA Western Region. Very pleased to welcome you here this evening to a webinar on best practices for hybrid learning. Um, we're in a spike situation right now, and so some schools that are right now not in hybrid are probably not going to go for a bit, but eventually I think, you know, some of you may be, and so this seemed to be a topic that needed more exploration. So we have six choral music educators from the state of California who are with us today. They are Alissa Aune, Sarah Norris, John Knutson, Eric Graham, Tina Peterson, and Keith Hancock. In addition, we have moderating the questions for you all, Arlie Langager. So we go ahead and put your questions in the chat, and she'll come up with the questions at the end, and we can address them at that point. Meantime, I'd like to start off with introductions. So, Alissa.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alissa Aune, and I teach at Enterprise High School in Redding, California, which is the northern part of the state. I'm a couple hours south of the Oregon border.
Thank you. Sarah.
Hello, Sarah Norris down in Mission Viejo High School. I'm the choir director at Mission Viejo High School in, Mission Viejo, California. We are in sunny Southern California.
Great. John Knutson.
Yeah. Hi, guys. I'm in a campus that is at Cuesta College, which is in San Luis Obispo County. And we have been going with about 10% of our classes on campus face-to-face since August, when we were purple in August. And now as of last week, we're purple again. So we're pretty confident as a college and a county that even though we're purple, we're not going to change our plan for the spring. We'll stay with about 10% face-to-face classes. And those classes they have to be lab classes or at least lab hybrid.
Hi, everybody. Eric Graham. I teach at Marina High School in Huntington Beach, Orange County, California.
Tina.
I teach at Irvine High School, Tina Peterson, and we are a district of five high schools, and I'm at one of the five of those schools.
And Keith.
Hey everybody, I'm teaching at Tesoro High School. I've been here for 19 years. I teach choir and commercial music.
Great. Okay, so just so everyone knows, I'm going to ask the same three questions of each of the teachers here, and then we'll open it up beyond that. So Alissa, briefly explain your schedule, how students are divided, and the number of students in your classes.
All right. Well, I've been in hybrid model since the very beginning of the school year. We opened our doors the very first day with everybody. And my schedule in the past had always been SSA, TTB choir, an a cappella choir, a chamber choir, and a show choir. And as we started looking at things and scheduling issues and all that good stuff, we decided, myself and the counselors and the principal, that for the ease of scheduling at the campus and trying to just get some consistency with the kids, I would take all of my show choir was not going to exist because with microphones, sharing, dancing, a live band, and all the things that go with it, show choir, we just agreed that it would not exist during the first semester, and it won't exist at all this year. And then we'd keep chamber singers, and that we do the other four classes all a cappella choir. And so it'd be a mixture of first year to 4-year members, and that I'd find literature that would just kind of be middle of the road to see where this was going to go. And one of the big things that happened right away was my numbers dropped by about 35 kids. And it wasn't because of what I was offering. It was due to the fact that because we went hybrid, there were a lot of families that were leery to send their kids to school. And so our district created an online academy, which has a very long waiting list. And kids just decided not to show up to school because they were like, well, I'm on the waiting list, so it doesn't really matter. And we have kids who still haven't gone to school yet this semester at all. And they're still on the waiting list and they're just sitting there. But that's a whole other topic. But yeah, my numbers dropped dramatically. And that was kind of a gut punch right away when I started seeing how many kids I actually had in choir. So from a program of usually about 120 kids, I have about 85, I believe, as of today. And we're split up with A to L and M to Z. And I see A to L kids on Mondays and Thursdays. I see M to Z kids Tuesdays and Fridays. And then on Wednesday, everybody is at home and they are supposed to have 40 minutes of engaged time. And however we want to do that as teachers, we are allowed to do. And so as I started talking to my students about what their teachers were doing, hardly any teachers were actually holding online classes on Wednesdays. So I started running sectionals on Wednesdays and just did a soprano sectional, alto sectional, tenor, bass sectional. And then with my jazz kids, my chamber singers, I actually took my chamber singers and divided them into 2 jazz choirs, which I normally do. And then we do also literature where they all sing together. And I got really lucky that I had 2 very solid jazz choirs, one A to L, one M to Z. Like, couldn't ask for a better split of voices. It was that moment where I went, this might actually work, until the tenors stopped doing their homework. And yeah, it just turned into, on Wednesdays with them, I would work on a lot of improvisation and just jazz technique and jazz history and things like that when we would have our Wednesday classes. And so, yeah, that's my schedule and the division and number of students. I think I got all my question 1 there.
Thank you very much. Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
So explain your schedule, how they're divided, and number of students in your class.
Yeah, I have 4 choirs, my chamber group, my advanced women, and then a beginning women and a beginning mixed. I also have a guitar class. And the way they split everything up, so we have A group coming on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then the B group coming on Thursdays and Fridays. And excuse me. So we have periods 1, 3, 5, 7 on Tuesdays, Thursdays, 2, 4, 6 on Wednesdays, Fridays. Monday, everybody is at home and you see all of your classes for 30 minutes. We have 30-minute classes on Monday. So you basically have time to take roll, make sure everybody's alive, talk about the week, and then say goodbye. I mean, sometimes I'll do a breakout session since that's the only day that I have everyone online. Sometimes I'll use that opportunity to do breakouts for section rehearsals. But other than that, it's really just announcements for the week. Have a nice day. And as far as our Tuesday through Friday classes, we still only have 55-minute periods. So it's not a lot of time. So I toyed with, once we finally started our hybrid, which was September 29th, I tried to find the perfect acoustical place on campus, and we have no coverings like ever anywhere. So I found this little spot. It's all concrete, and it's great, but it's a trek. So I either have to set it up all by myself before class, or I need kids to help me set it up, which then takes time. So ultimately what we're doing now is I start the class, I take roll, I make announcements, we do our stretches inside, and then we just step right outside my classroom. Fortunately, I'm in an area that's not too close to other classrooms, so I'm not disrupting other class time. And then the kids, they either take their chairs, the chairs that they were sitting in, so that they only have to wipe down one chair instead of 2. They either take their chairs with them or they just stand the whole time. And again, we only really have about 30 minutes of singing, so it's not that long. I'm getting a nice tan though.
Okay, John.
Yeah, so I was saying on Thursday nights, I have a chamber singers that's 28 students, and we meet for 2 hours. My numbers are quite a bit down. We cut our larger choir, and I just funneled everybody into the chamber choir. And my jazz group, we just ended up putting fully online, asynchronous, so that I could get enough people in it. And that's sort of like in a recording arranging choir. So my choir, of the 28, 25 attend. 3 of them stay at home and watch on Zoom and sing along on Zoom. I have students appointed to be mentors, and they have their iPhones set up on a tripod. So there's one tripod set up with an iPhone for each of the people singing at home. And then we're all part of the same Zoom meeting. So I have my iPad set up on another tripod next to me. And I have them on gallery view so I can see the ones that are working at home. And that's about it. We rehearse outside in a nice acoustic courtyard. So we did a concert there last week. When we talk more about rehearsal space and stuff like that, I can show a little bit how the concert was laid out and recorded and mic set up and all that. We also have a wind ensemble and a jazz band and jazz combos that practice on campus. They're not hybrid though. They're fully face-to-face, and they rehearse outside. We rehearse outside 10 feet apart with masks on. And pretty much all of my students have agreed to come on campus. Last week when we did a concert, they all came on campus and did the dress rehearsal 2 weeks ago. And then last week, they all came on campus to do the rehearsal. It seems really safe. When you're outside, when you're 10 feet apart, marked on X's, it's hard for even my most stressed out students who live with grandmothers and stuff to feel stressed about this. So I really would encourage it. I'm considering next semester not making it an option. I'm considering requiring attendance. I know that might cut out a few people, but it would make the choir a lot more cohesive. And I think the hybrid people are realizing they want to be on campus anyway.
So I have some real similarities to what Sarah and Alissa have going on. We just completed our 3rd week of hybrid. I teach 5 choirs. Just before the school year, I had 4 choirs in a musical theater class, and the musical theater class had like 7 kids in it. And the musical theater class was originally set up to be students would take a year of choir, and then they could opt to be in the musical theater class. So this year I had a bunch of no offense to anybody, but dancers that were not musically trained, didn't have any musicianship training. And so trying to do a musical theater class, like with students that I didn't know anything about their singing ability and the possibility of performing, not knowing what that was going to be, and enrollment being low in that class, the school let me change that to another choir, which allowed me to streamline my teaching so that I wasn't prepping for. So I made a treble choir into an intermediate and a freshman treble choir. So I have 5 choirs. So I have beginning treble, beginning bass, intermediate treble, advanced treble, and then I have a mixed chamber choir. And that's all different. That's kind of different this year than what my concert choir had been mixed in the past. Anyway, so the schedule of the week is exactly what Sarah said. So Monday is a 30-minute all-class online instruction day. And then Tuesday and Wednesday is in-person hybrid, synchronously with the people that are in Zoom at home. And then it switches for Thursday and Friday. And the unique thing about our district is instead of Alissa's district, where they created an academy, our district talked about an academy and then just said that the regular teachers would be also the academy teachers, and anybody who's online is going to be taught by their teacher in person. So I'm synchronously teaching the students in front of me as well as the students at home. But the other part that's unique about our district is that teachers can decide to teach from home on any given day. And students can and their parents can decide that even if it's your day to come to school, you can decide, oh, I'm just going to stay home today and go in on Zoom. So any day, even though you kind of have an idea of who's supposed to be in attendance in person, they can just choose to stay home and still get marked there as long as they participate in the class and in the Zoom call. And then when teachers call in, then we have our district hired like 100 instructional aides to be the adults in the classroom So they're monitoring the students that are in person, while if I'm teaching at home, then I'm zooming to them while they're sitting in my classroom with some random adult. So I'm not doing that. I'm teaching from the classroom. But in terms of like safety and health, our district went for like this flex. They're calling it high flex. We're not hybrid, we're high flex. So that's kind of our story.
Thank you. Tina.
It's so interesting to hear all these stories. Like no two are the same, similar, but just interesting. We have a kind of similar schedule but Mondays is our day, but we don't meet every kid in every class. We have what we're calling office hours. So my responsibility as a staff is 1 hour from 8 to 9, and any of my students can come in and make an appointment and Zoom in with me if they have questions. And quite a few of them do, because there's just so many technical challenges with this whole thing. And then we have one homeroom, we call it TA time, where all the kids check in for attendance. But our district did a really nice job of allowing us as teachers some time to plan and figure out how to use Pear Deck and Ed Puzzle and life, So that's our Monday. And then we're on the block. So we also have our classes split into, there's 8 blocks. And so I see 1, 3, 5, 7, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we have that split into 2. So I'll see my odd number classes, group A on Tuesday in person and B at home. And then Wednesday that switches. And then Thursday, Friday, I have 2, 4, 6, 8. I see A on Thursday and B at home, and then it switches. I, as many of us did, also lost some enrollment. Our district did do an academy. Our school lost over 500 families in our enrollment, so that affected our staffing. Many of the teachers in the academy are our staff, so that helped. But I do have 5 choirs that I meet in hybrid and 1 that I meet in the academy that I only will see. And most of them are students from our campus, but some are from some of the other high schools as well. So we're just making it happen. Some of my choirs with the A through L and M through Z, one class, the advanced women, I have 23 in one group and 9 in the other. But hey, a triple trio is a great ensemble, lots of madrigals. Anyway, so that's what we're doing at Irvine.
Thank you. Keith.
Yeah, well, we faced a big drop in numbers as well. It sort of went from about 240 to 170. We're split into 5 choirs, and yeah, like Tina, it's crazy in terms of the split. There's no rhyme or reason with even though they split A through 8K, I think, in our school. But anyway, we have every student is designated either red or blue. And then every student is either 100% online or hybrid. So if they're hybrid, they're with me for 1 full block period per week, which is 110 minutes. And then we see every student for 45 minutes on Monday online, completely online. So Mondays are our online day. The other days are block days. When the students aren't, rehearsing with me in our choir rehearsal, then we've set up some independent work for them, and I'll get to that probably later on. So basically, we see every kid for 2.5 hours per week synchronously, and 1.5 hours for guided independent work. And that's how we're running it, pretty much district-wide. With this, you can either choose to be online or hybrid.
Great. So I'm going to go ahead and start question 2 with you. You alluded to it. Describe the involvement of students not in class. Are they required to participate synchronously? And if not, how do you account for their class time? If so, what modifications do you need to make for them?
All right, so in any given period, I have kids that are in front of me as well as kids that are rehearsing at home, okay? And so with those kids, we're going through music, we're learning, and kind of a normal, I guess, no normal, but a virtually normal choir rehearsal. For the kids that are not, it's not their color day. So let's say they're a red student, and if it's a blue day, then they've got independent work that I've set up for them on Canvas, which is our LMS for this year. And so my assistant and I, we set up a whole like curriculum of vocal technique work, music theory work, sight singing, and music history and appreciation. That all my choir students are doing pretty much the same curriculum, except for the sight singing is more geared towards their ability level. And I can talk more about that. We're using Sight Reading Factory. I'm sure a lot of you guys are. And so that's kind of customized, but everybody else, they're doing the exact same work that's all been, we worked on it over the summer and basically set up the entire first semester of a whole curriculum for them to do on their independent days. And they have to stay on Zoom until their work is completed. Once they've completed all their work, then they let us know that they're done with their work. We can check their Canvas and make sure that's turned in, and then they're free to go on their independent days.
Tina.
That's exactly what we're doing. I also have the benefit and added challenge of a student teacher this year. He's wonderful. He's well trained from Cal State Fullerton. If he's not, I have somebody at Cal State Fullerton to complain to. Those of you that don't know, my husband is the teacher trainer of music ed students at Cal State Fullerton. So Andrew's doing a really nice job. And like Keith had said, having a second set of hands is amazing. So I don't know, even like a parent volunteer, or if there's a teaching assistant or somebody to be in two places at once is what I think made us all so crazy initially in this hybrid experience. But having a second set of hands and eyes to monitor Zooms and to do that sort of thing has been really helpful. But I would just echo what Keith is doing. We have just 2 different days. We log in together the first 10 minutes or so, or 15 minutes. That's our school requirement for attendance purposes. We don't require they stay on Zoom, but we often require they come back in at the end. And like Keith said, we'll check, and the assignments in our Canvas have due dates and times. And so they have to have them done. If they're not done, they need to let us know why, and what they schedule then, what time they think they can complete it based upon their day. So, but that's how we are managed. We are not synchronously teaching where we've got a camera on me in the rehearsal, and so the kids at home are singing with the kids at school. I wanted to do that. I was like, I can do that. And then I realized, and so what Keith is doing is what we're doing at Irvine as well.
Great. Eric.
So having students at home and students in person all at the same time has been difficult. And I too had all these grand plans, and I've got this beautiful audio card and all these things, but doing these things together. And then, as I mentioned before, not knowing, even if the student's supposed to be coming to school that day, if they are then going to remain at home. So for example, today I had a class that I should have had 13 students, and I was prepared to run a rehearsal outside, and I had 3 students show up today with the rise in cases. And we've had a couple of cases on our campus that student or parents are just going, nope, you're staying home today. So my rehearsal plan became a non-rehearsal plan, and became, so I've really kind of geared my instruction to having to focus more to the students online. So they are synchronous. And the work that we're doing all in there together. And it makes me super sad to say this, but then this week, especially, students that are in front of me are not rehearsing with me. They're coming and sitting down on a blue X on a riser and then logging into Zoom. And it like tears my heart out. And I'm like, we're supposed to be singing, we're supposed to be making music, but the only way for us to have a lesson plan and to execute it and to get something done is for me to use my class time, for us all to be in Zoom and all be in Soundtrap and Sight Reading Factory and things like that, and creating our virtual choir products like during class time. So that's the modification, is that we've slanted towards, online and working in these online platforms.
John.
I'm going to steal Tina's. I was going to do this and I wanted to do that. And then I. Oh man, that's good. Sorry, we're on question number 2, right? Yeah. So yeah, I do require my students to participate synchronously. And as I said, we have them they're on Zoom. They also have note learning assignments at home that every week they have to sing along with whatever guides they're doing. I never did that before the part tapes because I wanted them to kind of either learn how to plunk out their notes or sight read their notes, but it's a concession I had to make. It does make them learn I have to say, our rehearsals go really well because we're 10 feet apart and outdoors. They really have to know their part. If somebody isn't making noise or singing wrong notes, it's just, you can pinpoint them in a hot second, so they are learning how to be really accountable. And I would say the 3 that are doing hybrid, by the way, initially it was 5 doing hybrid until about 6 or 7 weeks ago. And they started to just get more, like I would say, more and more confident. Going forward here, there may only just be 1 person still doing it hybrid. But the ones that have been doing it hybrid, I mean, they're college students, so they're in a little different level maybe than some high school students, but they're community college students, so maybe they're not sometimes. But when they showed up for the dress rehearsal, the hybrid students, they all had their music memorized, which a lot of my in-person students didn't, I have to say. In some ways, the hybrid ones were almost more prepared for the concert, at least in terms of memorizing their music. Let's see. Sorry, Lou, I was kind of on question number 3. What else did we want to talk about with this one? If they're required to participate, and how do I count for the time? What modifications do I make? Right. Oh, I was going to say that we do, while Lou's unmuting, I guess people were talking about things that I have the students do at home too, or all the students do, because this class is 50% hybrid. So the other 50% for which they loaded, they do the sight reading factory. They weren't until I talked to Lou about a month ago. I was just being overwhelmed, and he said, just put it in. Thank you, Lou. And like I said, they do their note learning, which is basically just learning the music by rote, listening to the part tracks that I put in. We do some text discussions and some listening. People are posting different recordings and discussing that in the Canvas discussions. And then each week there's an assignment where they submit a recording of themselves singing along with the guides. Yeah, sound good?
That's great. Thank you very much. Sarah.
Yeah, similar to what a lot of people have been saying. So we do have synchronous lessons with our in-person students and our people at home. And I forgot to mention earlier, we do have a population of students who have chosen to remain entirely online. And they weren't necessarily all forced to go to a virtual academy. We do have a virtual academy, but because some of our electives, namely choir, is not taught on, is not available in virtual academy, some people just chose to stay online. And so on any given day, I'll have like anywhere from 5 to 12 people in person, and everybody else is at home. I haven't set up independent work for people at home to be doing during our lessons. My expectation is for them to be present and engaged and learning along with us. Like even this morning, I didn't have any first sopranos in person, but I still went over the first soprano part because I had first sopranos singing from home. So it's I'm just trying to teach my lesson the way I know how to, and the expectation is again that my students stay engaged while they are at home, and most of them keep their cameras on so I can see that they're singing. That is not a requirement in our district. I would love it to be, but it is not a requirement in our district that students keep their cameras on when they're zooming in. So that's a challenge too, when you're talking to black boxes with names. And you're just praying that everybody's following along.
How do you do that? Do you have Wi-Fi out in your campus? Like, I'm curious, do you have just your computer facing you? So you're teaching your class and then your computer's like just between you and your class? Like, I'm just curious how that's working.
Yeah, so that's exactly what it is. My computer's facing me. I'm outside. I have a keyboard. I have a little personal amplification system for myself so that my kids who are spread out from me can hear me, especially since we have a freeway and a train not far away. So that's awesome. But yes. Yeah, so I see my Zoomers. I call them my Zoomers. I see my Zoomers. My in-person kids can't see them except for when we're inside, and I've projected them onto our big screen. Um, so we're all stretching together, and then we go outside, and then I see my Zoomers, and the in-person kids are spread out from me. So that's my setup.
Thank you. Alissa.
Well, I'm going to tell a whole different story. um, so I teach at a low income suburban high school, and our district as a whole made a philosophy of help, not hurt the kids, and gave them basically a 5-day window to be present in class. So, for example, if I say, okay, on the Tuesday that you're at home, I need you to do your sight reading factory assignment and record this for me. They don't have to do it for 5 days in order to get that credit as far as to be marked as distance learning engaged. And so because of that, everything is very askew with their work at home. Basically what I've done with their work at home is, yeah, they have sight reading factory assignments, and then I have them work on whatever song we've been working on, parts, tracks, recording themselves, and then give them a due date of, hey, I need this in by a certain time so we can prep this for our virtual concert. That has typically been my assignments throughout this entire semester. And we didn't even get to that until about the first week of September, because our schedule, I only see the kids for 47 minutes in person. And then they're on to their next class. And that 47 minutes goes very fast when you're teaching kids how to use the technology, how to use sight reading factory, et cetera, et cetera. So those first few weeks was literally just, okay, this is how we're going to do this, and now you need to go do this at home type of situation. And that's all I was doing with my kids the first 3 weeks of school, was just prepping that. When they are there, because we couldn't sing in person at that point, not even outdoors singing, I've been teaching the kids piano skills for vocalists throughout this entire time, including now that we can sing in person and outside next to a very, very loud road. Which we're working on trying to find another home for our stuff. I think the wrestling room is where we're going to be storing everything now. And because we know the wrestling room is not going to be used for a long time. So, but yeah, so what we do during class usually is I go over whatever music we're singing. We were doing minimal humming because we found it to be soulless and gutless, and they just looked like I gave them a chocolate cake and then I just said, no, all you get is the plate. Anytime we started humming, and they really did not like chewing on the plate. So humming became very minimal, and they actually have quite enjoyed playing piano while they're in my class. Some of them have gotten quite far with it, and now their music reading abilities have transformed, especially between the combination of sight reading factory and playing piano. And I've told them, even though now we're singing more often, we will still play piano on a regular basis, especially if it's raining outside. I do live in Northern California, and yeah, it gets cold first period. It's usually 35 degrees, but we have blankets. But the at-home situation, our district has been very free for the kids to say, hey, we know you have to watch your little brother and sister. We know that your parents expect you to go to work, even though work permits say you can't go to work during work hours. There are job scheduling students during that time, and the kids are going to work when they should be in school. We don't have any requirements in our district that the kids have to log in on their days home whatsoever. As long as they do it within a 5-day window of time, then they can be counted as present. So it's been a very big learning experience with a lot of, I started off with lots of high expectations. I know my kids will practice 30 minutes, their choir music, this will be great. Maybe they won't practice this day and it'll be okay, but no big deal. And yeah, I was the queen of high expectations to now low expectations has become my mantra. So, but through all that, my kids have still produced about 12 songs in this semester at home. So I can't complain too much. And we have our virtual concert here right before we go away for Christmas break. So I'm really stoked with the work that they have put in. I still have some kids who have never done one assignment this entire semester. So, yeah.
I'm with you on that one. So let's turn around to question 3. How does the structure of your school's scheduling of students work for or against the goals and objectives of your class? I mean, I gave that to you a long time ago, and I think it's kind of an obvious one. Maybe why don't we just all kind of free up on that one? Go ahead and start, Alissa.
Well, I think I just kind of talked about
I think
some
so
of
too.
that, where it doesn't really go with. One of the things that I thought was cool was that the online academy situation, they allowed anybody who wanted to be in band or choir classes in our district to break the mold of online and come to those classes and those classes only, which I thought was really, really, really cool. And that made a difference for some of my students of whether or not they were going to do choir, and they started coming back just for that class alone. And so that was a really cool thing that happened. When I told my chamber kids one day, I said, hey, you know, the district, because we have a lot of therapy sessions in hybrid model because it is a short class, it is a small group of kids, and you get to know your kids more once they get past like wearing their masks and like going, we're not supposed to talk, where, you know, there, you could breathe on me, I could get sick. Once they get past that and you're in these small classes, I have learned so much about my students this semester because they truly just want to talk to people and engage. And I have some of the most crazy breakfast clubs of classes this year. And we have a lot of therapy sessions for all of us to just talk and vent it out. And one day we were talking about the schedule and how much they were not happy with what was going on. And I said, you guys, do you realize that you're supposed to be doing 40 minutes of work for each one of your classes every day that you're home? And they just burst out into laughter. Because I was like, do you do that? And they're like, no. And these are AP kids. I mean, these are my kids who do everything they're supposed to do. And when I said, you should be working on your schoolwork for 4 hours, 3 days a week at home, they laughed in my face. But then they also went, oh, that's why I'm so far behind now. And then it just started kicking in like, oh, so that's why my teacher gives me so much work. And I was like, well, yeah, because you're supposed to be doing that amount of work. That's why, like, my rehearsal plan for these songs, you have to have this done by this time because you could have spent 120 minutes on 35 measures. So yeah, that's my scheduling fun.
Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts on scheduling itself?
The situation at Tesoro, you know, we started with 15% of people wanting to be online, and now that number is at 50%. So the district made this plan, and so we had the classes, you know, obviously it was 85% people in hybrid. I thought I was going to be able to see a lot more. And now that number is a lot smaller in terms of people that are actually coming to campus, it's made my classes way smaller than I anticipated, you know, where it's usually between 5 and 15 people. So while that can be a really great thing, it can also be a tough thing, especially for the beginning singers. And so that's been probably one of the biggest struggles, is just working with those beginners and getting their confidence up and getting them to produce sound. And, you know, obviously the acoustics and the masks and the distancing and all that kind of stuff works against us. But I think we probably didn't need to split our classes into that extra red versus blue group. I think if we had just kept online kids and hybrid kids, we would have been pretty reasonable in terms of how many kids were in our classes. But now that small number has already been cut down by another half. So that's probably been the biggest challenge in terms of the scheduling working its way into negative things for the curriculum.
I think too in Irvine, we had a similar thing, Keith, and we had heard, and the school board had approved the hybrid model that the kids would have 2 days of instruction. But what wasn't clear was that only one of those 2 days would be on campus. So we see the kids once a week. So our kids are struggling with that, right? They're struggling with, I only see my teacher once a week, even though it's 90 minutes or 100 minutes, whatever it is, it's still once a week. And then I see him once online. but I don't really see them online because the synchronous thing hasn't been working for us. So they're doing other work. So it's been, and that's been the kids' complaints. You talked to Alissa about talking to them about how they're dealing with this. They're just so stressed because they don't have that connection to their teachers and their students and sitting at lunch and how did you study for the test, or let's share notes, and they just don't have that connection. And so that's been the hardest for kids that I've heard them talk about, just with the whole schedule of this hybrid, only at campus twice a week, and that only means they see each class once a week in face to face.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, sorry. We're dealing with the same thing, only seeing our kids in person once. But also, once again, we only have 55-minute periods. So when I'm hearing people have 90-minute, 110 minutes, that is amazing. Like, I can't even imagine how much I would be able to get done in that amount of time. But at the same time, it's because our district didn't want to deal with the liability of having kids on campus at lunchtime. So everybody goes home before lunch. We are done teaching at 12:05. There's an academic support time in the afternoon after the lunchtime. So that's just like tutorial. But, kids don't necessarily show up because it's all virtual. So we are done teaching. Our teaching day is done at 12:05. I mean, it's nice on one hand, but on the other hand, it's just we've lost so much time. And yeah, we're just not getting as much done as I would hope.
That's what I was just about ready to say, Sarah, too, is that one of the things I think our union did very well for us was advocating for the amount of prep time that we all need. And so like we're done at 1:40 every day. We're expected to stay on campus till 2:45. And then on the days when the kids are all at home on Wednesdays, the expectation is about 4 hours of face-to-face time, or, the 40 minutes of instruction, which basically gives us still about a half day of prep time. And I mean, I would have loved to have had this amount of prep in the years where I have events and, shows to run and trips to plan and all this kind of stuff. And instead I'm doing it a whole other way, but I've been very thankful for the schedule that they did give us with, being able to see the kids, of course, but the amount of prep time that we have been given, it's almost like I never want to go back to 5-day-a-week teaching. I would love to do 4-day-a-week teaching and see everybody, and be able to sing like we're supposed to. But that one day in the middle where everybody's online and we're at school doing stuff, it's like, God, that'd be almost just a gift at this point. But yeah.
Does anyone else stop at lunch?
Yeah, we have the same. We're done at 12:30, and it has to do with we're not a unified district, but we're a high school district, and we needed to somehow make our lunchtime relevant or work with the middle schools and elementary schools. And there's some talk about people with siblings and all this stuff. So we're done at 12:30, and then the big part is the time that's after. From 12:30 to 3 was this designated time where it's supposed to be student support, but also performing arts and athletics. So they have us all kind of lumped into this time. And then, so I could say I'm going to do an after school rehearsal on this day. And I could have both my groups of students come to one rehearsal as long as we're outside and socially distanced and all these things. But I can't make those kids come because they might be on a sports team that's practicing, or they might have a job, which they're allowed to have, or they might, be going to some other AP class study session or something. So that's been nice, but the school day being shortened and being done at lunch has led to less required academic time. And I'm just like Sarah, I don't feel like I can get as much done as I need to. And then that's why we spend a lot of our time online, because that's where we can actually create our virtual choir products and do that work.
Eric, do very many kids want to come to that? I mean, do you not do that after school thing because not enough kids want to? Because that does seem kind of ideal. You could have a long in-person rehearsal.
Yeah, it just became available to us, even though that time was available before. So there's also paperwork, like health paperwork and stuff, that I have to get to allow them to be with us after school. So I told them all that we're going to have those types of rehearsals once or twice a week for the different choirs. So maybe each choir comes once or something. and then again 2 weeks from then. So we're going to start that after Thanksgiving break. And the kids are excited about it. I did a Google survey to see what kinds of things they wanted to do, and they were interested in coming after school and rehearsing and doing social activities together.
That's what I was wishing for all of you, the high school teachers, was that it could be an extracurricular after school, even an evening thing, maybe if there's an outdoor space with lights, but a place where kids can congregate for their mental health, and for making music. The reason I was thinking about not doing hybrid next spring and just requiring students to attend is simply that for the final product, I guess the kids could still miss the rehearsals, but I can't get my kids to want to do a singing in a box video anymore. It's just like pulling teeth for them. They'd way rather that's probably why a few of those kids like broke out of their shell and came to the dress rehearsal and the concert, is because that's what they want for their final product. They just really don't want to do a singing in a box video. They just hate singing at home all by themselves with headphones on. College kids do. It just bums them out.
John, I'd sure be interested to hear about your concert situation, because that sounds very interesting to me.
I can show you a picture if you want.
Go.
Is it show and tell?
Yep.
I thought you'd never ask. So we're kind of lucky at Cuesta because our dean agreed to keep the theater staff on the payroll. So our theater tech lighting guy came out and brought all these LED lights out, and our sound guy set up mics that I guess you can't quite see yet here, but and then these little speakers on the ground are what we're playing like piano accompaniment through, because our accompanist isn't comfortable coming out there. She's over 65 or about 65. I guess you can see one mic there, but anyways, and then now we're along Highway 1, so here's some traffic noise and stuff. And in the post-production here, we added a little reverb, but it's a pretty reverberous space. And I'm not going to show it to it. You love the choir masks, I'm sure. So we're in a full circle when we rehearse like that. Only 2 kids are, on the very end, there's 2 kids that are not under, maybe it never shows it. Yeah, these kids here don't have very good lighting. A lot of times they put lights on their stands because they're not under a portico. And we did do one thing that was a little bit of a hybrid-y thing where we, oh, sorry, here, I got to share something different. I'll share this one other thing just to show where we kind of did a blend in some ways of singers in a box and that. So we had this, this is Brandon Boyd from the University of Missouri, who composed the piece we're singing. So we got him down in the box while we sing along with it, which is why we have those little small speakers on the ground to give the choir some. And as far as solos go and stuff, they can just get up close to a mic like that. And it works pretty well for. Anyways, that's that.
Makes my heart so warm to like see kids actually singing and like performing. Like, yeah, how exciting!
So jealous.
My brain is going.
I have some friends in the Midwest,
I don't know if I can get my administration to let that be a thing, but.
Yeah, I can't imagine how they're going to spread COVID being 10 feet apart out there. I just can't. I'm no scientist, but I'm pretty sure even in most college classes, it's not or high school classes, they're not spreading it there. They're spreading it, when they get closer together in parties and things like that. But that's my editorial opinion.
Right. We need to not editorialize here. But I will say, too, we have the advantage in warmer climates. And not everyone in Western region, let alone the rest of the country, has that advantage, especially, November going through into probably May for some places around the country.
It was 48 degrees that night. It was really cold for San Luis Obispo. Yeah. But the nerves kick in and you're not cold.
Right. Keith, I actually wanted to go back and ask you a question since you actually are having lunch there. What sort of protocols are they doing for the students there? Just briefly.
They have set up 6 feet, like they've painted places on the ground, little T's for Tesoro, where kids are supposed to distance. And they've set up, all our lunch tables are out, but you can only sit 2 at a table. To be honest, while they have these restrictions in place, there's only so many administrators to be out there. So you're going to see groups of kids kind of clumped together. I mean, is every kid 6 feet apart? No, let's be honest. I would say most are. Everybody's wearing wearing a mask when they're in class, but during lunchtime when they're eating, they don't need to wear a mask, obviously. So, in terms of being able to control all of those things at lunch, our district has just been like, we'll do the best that we can. But it's kind of this weird thing because, we have all these protocols, and then once school ends, the kids are all jumping in the same cars and hugging each other and hanging out on the weekends. It's like we can control as much as we can control, right? But they have made an attempt. They were really strict about, like, administrators are walking around splitting kids up. When I walk around and I see 6 feet, it's kind of like just like the standard war cry around our school. And so we're making it work, and but there's certainly no way to control every kid. Now, of course, the numbers of kids on campus are way, way less, so we have a little bit more control than usual. But that's the situation anyway at Tesoro.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You've been tracking, has there been any spread or outbreaks or anything on your campus, Keith?
I wouldn't say spread. We've had 3 isolated cases, and very, obviously the protocols are very strict in terms of what happens when contact tracing and all that kind of stuff. And but I wouldn't say any outbreak. I don't think 3 kids in a school of 2,500 is too bad.
Yeah, we've been open since August, and we actually had our first COVID case within 3 days. But none of the cases that we have had on our campus have been traced back to being transferred at school. And just like Keith was saying, the protocols, they go out the door during lunch. It's just, they're having fun. They're being kids. And in the classrooms, absolutely. And our security guards and our teachers, we're definitely all just like, wear your mask, wear your mask, wear your mask, as far as like in passing periods and such. But we have very solid, sorry, my dog and my cat want to fight right now. We have very solid compliance with wearing masks on campus. It's not an issue. Our administration came down very hard at the beginning and said, look, if you don't wear it the way you're supposed to, you're not going to be on our campus. This is a yes or no. And if you're not going to follow, get off our campus. And people learned really, really fast that we weren't going to settle for anything less than that. And that helped a lot. The other thing, coming back to, we were talking about scheduling, as we all stress about, there's so much literature we want to do and the things we want to do. Somebody told me that when we're in hybrid model, we lose 1/3 of the instructional minutes that we normally have, as far as, especially because like we leave at 1:40 or we leave at 12 o'clock, we are losing 1/3 of our actual time in front of kids. And that is a huge change up for all of us who live by calendars, choral directors. It's like, we got this concert, we got to get this done by then, and and now we've lost 1/3 of our time, and now we only see half of our kids, and now that person's not coming to school because they just don't feel comfortable this week, or they got a cough and they have symptoms that are like COVID, so they can't come to school, but they don't have COVID, and so then they have to get a doctor's note in order to come back on campus. And so there's just so many what's the word? Just so many excuses. Excuse is not the right word to say, but there's just so many layers of what can change on a daily basis with these kids right now, that so much of our scheduling problems just stem from the fact we don't see our kids as much. But then there's just all these layers of, well, they might have this and they have this going on, and they still need to finish that test in their English class, so they can be late to choir. It's okay.
Right. Yeah, some things never change. I'd like to open up this to all of you. What's the single most important thing teachers should do to ensure the success of students in hybrid learning situations? It's kind of broad, given that we have different situations, but
I'd like to start probably more with the question, the idea of what I wish I had known. I spent a lot of time, like Keith had mentioned, over the summer prepping stuff and, putting curriculum and learning the Google Slides and Pear Deck and Canvas and all these fancy pantsy things, right? And I wish I could jump ahead to almost December and remembered why kids take our class, right? They don't take our class to do see a fancy, Google slide and do an ed puzzle. They take our class to interact with each other, interact with us, and make music. And so I wish I could have told my super crazy, stressed out person that I was in August that it's okay. It's like Alissa saying, we're losing all this time and all these things. And, it's these kids. Yeah. Jill's like, yes, like these kids just need us to care for them and love on them and do what we do. And give them as much as we can of what normalcy looks like. Right. And so Alissa, I admire 12 songs. Each one of my choirs has done one, and we haven't actually recorded it yet. Like, we are going super slow. And you know what? They appreciate that. Our kids are so stressed because a lot of their AP teachers are not adjusting anything. Because they've got that test right in May. So they're just jamming all, and I used to teach AP theory. So I get that. So I guess I wish I would have known that it's okay to give myself grace, to give the kids grace, to love on them, to give them the connection that music offers, and just to be there with them and celebrate the little things. Like our first day of hybrid, we sang a major scale and I just started to cry. I was never so excited for C major in canon in my whole life. It was the best thing I'd ever heard. So that's what I wish I had known. I don't have to be some crazy technology expert. I'm not. It's not what I do. Technology to me is a mechanical pencil and a tuning fork. I mean, that's technology. So that's what I guess I would have known, and that's what we all know, to give ourselves grace, give the kids grace, and just make art with them best that we can. And we get to sing with them, even if it's online. We get to do it. So we focus on what we get to do, not what we can't do.
Excellent. Other thoughts?
I'd say just, be ready to adapt. There's going to be a lot of challenges along the way. The curriculum is going to need to be adaptable. There's going to be strategies that have always worked that may not work in this environment. The technology will fail at times. We have a Wi-Fi hotspot, and sometimes it doesn't work great, and we just have to roll with it. The weather is going to be an issue. It's going to rain. It's going to be freezing cold. We just need to be able to be adaptable. And really, I think Tina touched on this, is just having grace. I want to keep my expectations really high. The repertoire, no, it's not going to be the same kind of rep that Madrigals always does. It's not going to be the same kind of rep that my beginning girls, always sing. But we can still challenge them, and we can still, find repertoire that's going to meet their needs and meet them where they're at. And while we keep those high expectations there, we can still have grace for the kids that are struggling with this. I don't want to lower my expectations for everybody, because I don't think that's right. But I want to keep high expectations, but I want to have grace for, and I'm talking about more about the independent work, and when kids are turning in stuff late, we don't know what's going on. We've got kids that are struggling big time, as we all know. So, just having some grace in those kind of situations. But then also, making sure that we're fostering in as much good music education as we can in the midst of all of it.
I would also totally say yes to everything that Tina and Keith just said. One of the big things that I found with my kids too is that at first they were really, really, really happy to be together. And then about 2 weeks into it, they realized they missed their friends and that are in the other set of hybrid. And they started mourning the loss of those people. And then on top of that, as the year starts progressing and they realize, oh, that was supposed to be senior sunrise, and oh, that was supposed to be homecoming, and oh, we're supposed to be an honor choir right now in rehearsal, right now we're supposed to be an honor choir today. They have these days that they are just sad and they're in mourning and they don't know how to deal with it. So going back to what Tina's saying, being there for the kids has been paramount to their mental health, because it goes back to that idea that we are their mental health class. Normally they come to us to vent their sorrows and their frustrations and their happiness, and they get to do it through song. And now we put a mask on them and we tell them, don't sing because you may get somebody sick. And, there's these different things and you've got to do this, this, and this. And it's just such a different world. And now you've got to sing by yourself at home. and they're scared and they're overwhelmed and they miss things and they just choirs turn into therapy. Like I said, it's breakfast club 5 periods a day sometimes, and I just let it run. And it goes back to having low expectations. I just have to go what's best for the kids in that moment. And it's not my lesson plan. I just need them to feel comfortable at school and continue to want to sing at home and be a part of music. And that's more important than any other curriculum that we could dive into that day.
I really have to agree with you. I'm completely online, but I keep the mantra is it's all about process, not product. We just started working, finally got it through bureaucracy for Cyborg Llama, which is it's got video and audio together. It's pretty cool. And so we were playing with that today, and I saw smiles on their faces as they heard harmonies. And so they're going to be practicing with those, very much like Soundtrap, but it's about the process. And part of the process is healing. We need to heal our students. So I want to thank you. We are a little bit over time, and I know that a couple of you have to go, but I would invite those of you who want to stick around and ask some questions to do that. I'm going to stop the recording here, and then I'll post some of the answers. So thank you all so very much. Let's give it up for our clinicians here today. Thank you so very much. Best wishes to all of you.
Thanks for
Thank you,
hosting
guys.
I think it's been really helpful, and we need to have these discussions. That's what ACDA is about. We need to be able to be together and support each other and share and get ideas. So thank you for hosting. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yes.